Hello, I'm Chris. Welcome to Warrior. The Iranian nuclear threat, the staggering pace of Chinese nuclear weapons modernization. It's tough to think of a more serious threat circumstance when it comes to nuclear weapons. We are honored to be joined today by Major General Colin Connor. He is the crew commander and director of modernization for ICBMs. Very important work. He's got quite an intellectual background with the Air War College, MIT. Sir, I want to thank you for your time. And gosh, it's tough to think of a more serious and important role for you.
Well, sir, I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the conversation we're going to have. And yeah, it is a interesting time, and uh, it's time for us to focus on our national defense as always, and to spend some uh, conversation here and really where the direction we're going. So thanks.
Roger that, sir. In terms of the current threat circumstance, I'd love, in a general sense, to just get your thoughts about the paradox of strategic deterrence, the whole idea of arming with nuclear weapons for the purpose of not having to use them. Isn't that even more crucial right now?
So a couple questions you've rolled in there. Um, not to jump on your question, but I'll address your question. We do use them every day. Nuclear weapons are used every day to deter our adversaries. Obviously, the environment we live in today, with it no longer being just one adversarial nation, but multiple adversarial nations that are nuclear capable, has changed the paradox that we probably grew up in. I won't ask your age, but I think we're probably somewhat in the same decade. But we grew up where we were just focused on the Soviet Union, and here in the last 10 years, we've seen that explode across the world to those adversaries that we have to deter. And that's where I'll get into the actual use of the nuclear weapons every day. The triad and the part that I specifically focus on, which is the land-based leg of that, the intercontinental ballistic missile leg, is used every day to deter our adversary. It's the foundation of our national security. And because we use it every day from a deterrence perspective, and while most people would say, well, you don't because you don't launch it, thank goodness we don't launch them, right? But we do use them to deter our adversaries from launching or attacking the continental United States. And something I would offer up is, since the advent of nuclear weapons and the first one going on alert at Alpha 6 up at Malmstrom Air Force Base, no sovereign nation has attacked the continental United States. I think that's important to understand, important for the audience to think through is, what value do these provide? They provide us a blanket of security that we traditionally just take for granted. We all do, because we're all busy and we go through our daily life, and it's only when we're given the chance to reflect on what we do and how we do it that we get to think about that. But hopefully I addressed your question somewhere in there. Thank you.
Roger that, sir. Well, you have an intellectual background with the Air War College, as well as being a senior weapons developer with modernization of ICBMs. I want to ask you about the Sentinel. And then also, I have to ask you about some historic, famous scholars like Bernard Brodie, who talked about the paradox of deterrence in the context of bolt out of the blue. Perhaps one of the things he mentioned, some of his later writings at Rand, was this need for retaliatory possibility. As you said, sir, the need to potentially use nuclear weapons to keep the peace, the idea of deterrence. Is a retaliatory strike and an arsenal of ICBMs necessary to keep the peace?
Well, I think that's why, and we've seen it from administration through administration for their nuclear posture reviews. And you look at actually not just the land-based leg, but you look at the triad as a whole. And while I'm certainly not a policymaker in Washington, D.C., I do read the material that they provide, and obviously it governs the way that we do our business. And critical to that is certainly within the triad to have that retaliatory capability or second strike capability, which scholars have noted over time. Thank you.
Roger that. Well, let's talk about the Sentinel, the critical modernization effort. I got to get your thoughts on digital engineering. From what I understand, there was an ability through computer simulation to look at as many as 8 or 9 actual design models before any were built. What's the status of Sentinel? How is it progressing? And where do we stand right now in the trajectory of development?
Yeah, so the Sentinel program is ongoing, right? I'll invite you as much as I can to come out and visit one of our installations, and you can see the construction that's ongoing. I think it's important to note that while many people have read newspapers and read news articles and seen a Nunn McCurdy and seen Sentinel has never stopped. The program has continued to evolve. We've learned things. I'll take you back a little bit in time. We have never done what we are attempting to do. Even in the 1950s, 1960s, when we fielded the initial system, we were starting with a clean slate. And so we were actually, just trying to get a missile on alert. And by that, I mean operational with a warhead on top to hold our adversaries at bay. What we're trying to do now is maintain that system while also fielding another one. So that's when I say we've never done it before, we've never maintained and fielded at the same time. That's, a lot of people say, well, it's not that hard. It is really, really hard, right? Traditionally, what we do in the military when we replace weapon systems is we'll stand a unit down, we'll take them to non-mission capable, and then we'll allow the new mission to stand up. We'll train the people, and it's usually anywhere from 6 months to a couple year progress or process to walk through that. We don't have that luxury based on what our adversaries are doing and the needs of our nation to have a land-based leg ready to go. So it's never been done before. The program is well underway at F.E. Warren Air Force Base up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's ongoing construction on the installation right now to start providing the infrastructure that's much needed before you can do anything out in the missile field. Everybody gravitates to work going on in the missile field. You got to get the infrastructure for the support to be able to do anything out in the field. So it's a stair-step process that we got to work through. But it's progressing. We continue to learn things each and every day through the Nunn-McCurdy process. Obviously, that was based upon projected costs being over. We learned through that process, and it's given us a chance to look at all of the requirements that were developed over time on the Sentinel system, and we've gone back and we've reviewed every one of those requirements. And those have been approved through the Air Force requirements process earlier this year, that those are the right requirements that we're going to build the Sentinel system to.
Understood, General. Absolutely. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was this question of a potential missile gap. It's almost a small miracle that the Minuteman has remained so upgraded, so viable, so functional for so long, decades beyond its anticipated service life. Tests still are underway to assure there is a viable deterrent. Yet some have been concerned that perhaps the arrival of the Sentinel might come later. And could there be a missile gap where there's an impasse, if you will, or a deficit in deterrence temporarily while everyone's waiting for Sentinel to arrive? What's your assessment of that, sir?
Yes, sir. So my assessment of that, and that's my job, right, is to work the transition from Minuteman to Sentinel. There'll be no missile gap. We can ill afford to have a missile gap. Our nation has said this is what the triad needs, and so uh, you called it a miracle. I'll call it great American ingenuity that keeps Minuteman very viable. And as a viable weapon system, we have great airmen from across this nation that volunteer to serve, that keep the Minuteman III under 20th Air Force and the three missile wings operational day to day. What we have to do is continue to support those airmen with programs in place to replace equipment as we see it either failing or projected to fail. And we do a great job with our program office to be able to do some of those projection outward. But as you've alluded to, it is well past its lifespan, and it's time to replace it with a new system. And so we're certainly not going to have Minuteman III limp along. We're going to keep it fully operational, and we're going to field a fully operational Sentinel system. And for a while, you'll actually have a mixed fleet, which is going to be different. And so there'll be no missile gap.